"You'll get nothing," my sister said before the trustee had even opened the folder. We were seated in a private conference room at the firm that had handled my grandfather's estate planning for years. The blinds were half closed. The long walnut table reflected the overhead lights in a clean, uninterrupted strip. My aunt sat to my left. My mother sat across from me. No one corrected her. "She hasn't contributed in years," my sister continued, her tone even. "She's been distant, detached. A leech, honestly. Grandfather knew who was actually present." She spoke as if she were clarifying a clerical error. The trustee adjusted a stack of documents but did not interrupt. The meeting had not yet formally begun. I folded my hands on the table and looked at the date printed at the top of the agenda packet. 10:02 a.m. The clock on the wall ticked once. No one asked me to respond. No one asked her to stop. I noted the placement of the sealed envelope beside the trustee's elbow and the fact that it had not yet been opened. The meeting, technically, had not started. That was how it began. Before procedure. Before documentation. Before anyone with authority had spoken. If you've ever been judged before the facts were read into record, you understand how quickly conclusions form in a quiet room. If stories about inheritance disputes and procedural reversals interest you, you can like or subscribe. It helps the channel grow. Have you ever watched someone decide the outcome before the process even started? The trustee cleared his throat and formally called the meeting to order. My sister believed I had no claim. Her reasoning was structured, not emotional. I had moved to another city 3 years earlier. I visited less frequently. I did not involve myself in the day-to-day management of my grandfather's rental properties. I wasn't present for minor repairs, tax consultations, or the annual insurance reviews. She was. She handled paperwork. She drove him to appointments. She kept copies of invoices in labeled folders. From the outside, it looked conclusive. She appeared integrated into the machinery of his affairs. I appeared peripheral. The assumption followed naturally. Proximity equals entitlement. There was also the matter of a small loan my grandfather had given me during my final year of university. It had been documented but informal. My sister referenced it frequently in family conversations, describing it as evidence of dependency. She needed help, she would say. Grandfather supported her. I supported him. The narrative was efficient. Support flows downward. Contribution flows upward. Therefore, inheritance follows contribution. My mother subscribed to that logic. My aunt did as well. No one raised their voice. No one framed it as punishment. It was described as alignment. She understands, my sister said in the months before his passing. She knows this is practical. I never corrected that statement. They also believed I lacked leverage. The estate documents had been drafted years ago. Amendments were handled privately between my grandfather and the trustee. I had not attended those meetings. My sister had driven him to at least 2 of them. Visibility became proof. Because I wasn't present, they assumed I was excluded. Because I wasn't arguing, they assumed I agreed. Because I wasn't demanding information, they assumed I had none. By the time we sat in that conference room, the distribution had already been decided in their minds. All that remained, from their perspective, was formal confirmation. I had read the documents. Not the final sealed copy, but earlier drafts. 2 years before his death, my grandfather asked me to review a summary of his estate plan. He said he wanted a second pair of eyes. He handed me a binder across his kitchen table and waited while I turned the pages. I read slowly. I noticed sequencing language, timing clauses, conditional distributions tied to specific administrative actions rather than emotional qualifiers. The structure was deliberate. Assets were not distributed based on presence. They were distributed based on roles defined inside the document. Executor authority, trustee oversight, beneficiary triggers. There was a revision 6 months later. I was informed of that revision by email. Not in detail. Just noticed that changes had been made and that updated copies were stored with the firm. I requested a summary. It arrived as a time-stamped PDF attachment. I read that too. My sister did not know I had done this. It never came up in conversation. When she described the estate as straightforward, I let her. When she explained that contribution would be recognized accordingly, I nodded once. Preparation does not require announcement. By the time we gathered in that office, I understood that the order of events mattered more than the volume of opinions. No reveal had occurred yet. The sealed envelope remained closed. Interrupting her would have altered the sequence. If I had responded to "you'll get nothing" with correction or confrontation, The meeting might have shifted into argument before the documents were formally entered into record. Procedure thrives on order. So I allowed her to finish each sentence. I allowed the room to absorb her assessment without interference. People say more when they think they've already won. Silence preserves structure. The trustee glanced at me once, briefly, as if confirming I did not intend to object to the opening commentary. I did not. He reached for the envelope. Before he could open it, my sister leaned forward. For clarity, she said, I've been managing the properties for the last 18 months. Utilities, tenants, maintenance, scheduling. I have spreadsheets documenting everything. It would make sense for the properties to transfer directly to me to avoid disruption. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were printed bank statements, repair receipts, and typed summaries of her involvement. It's just efficient, she added. My mother nodded. She's been consistent. My aunt folded her hands. We all saw who showed up. The implication was structured reinforcement. Witness testimony without hostility. My sister continued. There's also the outstanding educational loan. She looked at me. I assume that will be reconciled before any distribution. The trustee raised his eyes. We will address liabilities in order, he said evenly. She interpreted that as agreement. And I think it's important we avoid unnecessary division, she went on. If assets are fragmented, management becomes complicated. She spoke in operational language. Not emotional. Not aggressive. She was building a case before the case had been read. I tracked the time. 10:17 a.m. The envelope was still sealed. My sister sat back, satisfied that the room had aligned with her reasoning. Ultimately, she concluded, grandfather valued responsibility. No one disputed that. The trustee placed both hands on the envelope. The estate plan, the trustee began, contains several amendments executed over the past 3 years. He opened the envelope carefully, sliding the contents out without tearing the flap. There is a standard distribution schedule, he continued, but it is contingent upon the activation of a family trust established under the 2023 revision. My sister's posture shifted slightly. The trust, he said, names a co-trustee. He adjusted his glasses and read the name. Mine. Silence settled into the room, but he did not pause long. Under the terms of the amendment, property management authority is not transferred based on prior informal involvement. It is assigned according to trustee designation. He referenced a clause number. The rental properties remain under trust ownership. Decisions require dual trustee consent. He looked up briefly. No single beneficiary may unilaterally assume control. My sister's folder of spreadsheets remained open in front of her. The educational loan referenced, he continued, was formally forgiven under a separate instrument executed last year. He lifted a second document. Forgiveness was conditioned upon completion of degree requirements, which has been verified. He placed that document on the table. The activation date of the trust, he added, was triggered upon certification of death and filing with the court last week. As of 9:14 a.m. this morning, authority transferred accordingly. He tapped a printed timestamp in the upper corner of the page. 9:14 a.m. The meeting had begun at 10:02. Authority had already shifted before my sister spoke. No one responded immediately. My sister looked at my mother, then back at the trustee. That doesn't prevent distribution, she said carefully. Distribution, he replied, occurs after asset valuation and trustee agreement. The schedule specifies a 90-day review period. 90 days, my aunt asked. Yes. He turned a page. During that period, operational control remains under trust structure. The room grew quieter. My sister closed her folder slowly. So nothing is decided today, she asked. Correct, he said. Today's purpose is formal acknowledgement of roles. I glanced at the wall clock. 10:29 a.m. The impatience in the room was subtle but present. Expectations had been immediate. The document required delay. Procedure does not accelerate for assumption. There is one additional clarification, the trustee said. He retrieved a final sheet from the stack. The 2023 amendment includes a survivorship clause. My sister's expression tightened. In the event of dispute regarding management authority, he read, the trustee may suspend discretionary distributions to any beneficiary seeking unilateral control. He lowered the paper. This clause was inserted at your grandfather's request, he added. The words were neutral. Informational. My sister spoke carefully. I'm not disputing anything. Of course, he replied. I am simply outlining the structure. He turned toward me. As co-trustee, you will receive digital access to all account portals by end of day. A joint meeting to review asset performance will be scheduled within 30 days. He then addressed both of us. Any sale, transfer, or refinancing requires dual authorization. The mechanics were clear. No assets moved without my signature. No control consolidated without agreement. The authority shift was not dramatic. It was administrative. My sister inhaled once, then reorganized the papers in front of her. "I've already been managing everything," she said. "Practically speaking, informal management does not supersede trust designation," the trustee replied. My mother leaned forward. "This can still be streamlined, can it?" "It can," he said. "With mutual consent." The emphasis was quiet. Mutual. My aunt looked at me for the first time since the meeting began. "You knew?" she asked. "I reviewed prior drafts," I said. That was all. My sister's earlier certainty did not convert into anger. It converted into recalculation. "If we're co-trustees," she said, "then we'll need to coordinate." "Yes," the trustee confirmed. She nodded once. The folder of spreadsheets that had supported her opening declaration now represented preparation without authority. No one referenced the word leech. No one revisited the statement that I would receive nothing. The record had replaced it. The trustee continued outlining timelines, appraisal requirements, and reporting obligations. Each item required acknowledgement. Each acknowledgement required both our signatures. My sister signed where indicated. I signed where indicated. The balance of power did not swing. It settled. The meeting concluded at 10:58 a.m. The trustee gathered the signed acknowledgement forms and placed them back into the folder. "Digital copies will be circulated this afternoon," he said. Chairs shifted softly against the floor. My sister closed her bag. "We'll coordinate this week," she said to me. "Yes," I replied. No further commentary was offered. The blinds remained half-closed as we exited the conference room. In the hallway, my mother touched my arm briefly, as if to measure something unspoken, then let her hand fall. There were no apologies. No clarifications. The file was stamped and returned to the trustee's cabinet. Roles had been recorded. I did not feel vindicated. I felt prepared. Preparation does not argue. It reads. It waits. It allows statements to enter the room unchallenged when those statements have no structural support. "You'll get nothing" had sounded definitive at 10:02 a.m. By 9:14 a.m., it had already been incorrect. The difference between those times was not emotion. It was documentation. My sister believed proximity translated to ownership. The trust translated authority differently. There will be meetings over the next 90 days. Asset reviews. Decisions requiring 2 signatures instead of 1. Process will continue as written. The envelope was opened once. The clause was read once. The designation was clear. And clarity, once entered into record, does not require repetition.